Hello Capricorn and welcome to my channel Tarot by Gabrielle. This is going to be a general reading for Sun, Moon, Rising, and Venus placements looking at your connection between you and the person that you are dealing with and are needing to learn the most from right now. We'll be pulling for all three sides of the connection, so we'll look at your energy, their energy, and the energy in between it, the concept being that there are three sides to every story. So we're looking at your version of the truth, their version of the truth, and this higher level unbiased truth in the middle. This middle section will be looking at what is the deeper purpose of this connection and the best way for you to move forward in order to align further with your higher self. Friendly reminder that these are general readings and they are not here to resonate fully for everyone, and they won't resonate fully for everyone. So do please remember to take what does resonate and helps your personal situation and to leave what does not. On that note, this whole reading can be reversed. If that is the case for you, that is totally fine and totally normal, especially if you're a cross-watcher. Last thing is that any information on the extended reading or on booking a personal reading or coaching session with me is in the description box below. All right, Capricorn. Let's jump in. Let's see what it is, what your story is with the person you are dealing with and are needing to learn the most from right now. Let's start, Capricorn, with your side of this connection. This is Capricorn's energy toward the person they are dealing with. Synchronicity with boundaries and unfinished business. I feel like when you and this person met and as this connection developed, it kind of felt like almost like divine timing or divine guidance. It felt like everything was kind of aligning. And I feel like based on how things unfolded, I feel like things didn't end up working out the way that you expected, to say the least. And now there's this energy, this overall kind of like feeling that there's unfinished business here. This boundaries card is interesting because I feel like you're in this place of being really torn. Because again, in the beginning of this, I feel like it felt like something that was really meant for you. Everything was aligning, this is your person, or like this person is supposed to be in your life in some way. But there's also this energy of feeling, like you need to protect your peace and protect your happiness and protect yourself in some way here, your worth and things of that nature. So there's almost this energy of feeling a little bit torn, trying to make sense of things here, trying to figure out how to best move forward for yourself. But let's see what their energy toward you is here, Capricorn. Know your worth. Sparks with connection. So I feel like they recognize the depth of the connection here that exists between you guys. I actually feel like this person struggles to believe that they are worthy and deserving of love. And I feel like that comes out a lot in their actions. Maybe there's a lot of projecting, triggers, past traumas there. I do feel like there are feelings here, but I feel like there's things that, like unresolved things that they're dealing with that keep them from being able to, show up in this in the way that you really deserve. And I feel like that's the part where you feel the most torn, is like, how good this connection could be if this person, would change almost like their view of themselves or their view of their worthiness and their deservingness. And I'm not saying that like you justify things, but I do feel like it's like there's a deep understanding of this person and who they are and why they do the things that they do. And maybe that just comes from like being with them for a long time, or just like maybe there's some mirroring here. There's some, you kind of see yourself in them in some way. And I feel like all of that complicates things because there's so much more to the story and to the situation than just like the things that they do. And I think that that they have feelings for you, and you maybe second guess it sometimes based on how they behave. But I feel like deep down, like that they care, they have feelings for you. I do feel like they really do. But I feel like the way that they show up is just not what it is that you're wanting or desiring or deserving. Truth of this connection between Capricorn and this person. I almost also get this feeling that you wouldn't know that this person struggles with their self-worth, because I almost feel like they're really good at kind of like hiding how they really feel about themselves too. And I think that again makes things way more complicated, because then you're trying to read into signs and to understand, you know, where they're coming from. Grief and sadness. Truth of this connection between Capricorn and this person. Breakups and makeups. And then you have this dead end card here. You and this person have been in this cycle for a while. The cycle of, oh, we're getting close, things are progressing, you know, we're finally gonna get to the place we want to be, and then something happening, you know, leading to a separation or a breakup or a fight or an argument or whatever the case is. And it just kind of feels like, you know, starting back over almost with this person. And I think that continues to put you, honestly, both of them, in this grief and sadness energy. And I feel like there's just a lot of confusion here. There's a lot of energy. There's a lot at play. And it's not something that's super simple. And the complications that are involved, I feel like are making it hard for both of you to figure out really how to approach this, because there's obviously a lot of good stuff here too. I'm not saying it's all bad. If it were all bad, I feel like it would be easy to just kind of leave this behind and walk away from it. But I feel like, again, you know, when you met this person, it really felt very, you know, divinely guided, like they were meant for you. And I feel like it's just been hard to make sense of everything else because of that. So hopefully the goal, I mean, and ultimately the goal of this reading is to try to bring forth some clarity for you guys. But let's look at this overall theme here for Capricorn. Overall theme of this reading for Capricorn, please trust the universe. Let me see what else we've got here. I feel like you're needing to trust however things play out is going to be for your highest good. No? Okay. Okay. Allow for time and space. I feel like right now you're trying to make sense of things when there's just like a lot of emotion involved, and that's making it hard for you to see things clearly. And I also feel like your guys' energy is really just like intertwined. It's like you feel them in your energy, you maybe even feel the way that they feel in your energy, and there's just so much that's really difficult for you to like separate and process. So I feel like right now is a time to really take some time to step back from this and try to process everything that's happening, because there's something that Spirit's wanting you to see about this. I feel like, especially with never again, it's like there's some sort of cycle here between you and this person that needs to close before there would ever be peace and the potential for things to really work here. And ultimately, you know, you're capable of having the love that you deserve no matter what. So I think that, I don't know, I think that things are complicated, and I feel like Spirit wants to give you some time and some space to really, you know, get clear on what you really are thinking and feeling, or maybe even just processing a lot of the feelings and emotions associated to help you move forward in the best way possible for yourself. But with that being said, Capricorn, let's dive in. Let's look at your side here. Boundaries of synchronicity. It's almost like clarity on this is going to come. Capricorn side of this connection, boundaries of synchronicity. Knight of Pentacles. Four of Swords in reverse. You know, with this Knight of Pentacles, usually it's like slow, but in this I'm getting long. I feel like you've been dealing with this connection or this cycle for a really long time. And I feel like your soul, with the Four of Swords in reverse, whoa, I feel like your soul is really drained here. And there's almost this energy of trying to make, and I keep saying this, like trying to make sense of things, trying to find clarity, trying to find peace. Maybe for some of you it's closure. I don't think that that's everyone though. Because I do feel like you're aware that you're deserving of more, but I also feel like you see that potential of you receiving that in this connection. I feel like, there's just so much empathy here and so much understanding. And I just feel like you see this person for who they really are, maybe behind the mask, behind their insecurities, behind their fears, behind their traumas, like all of that. You see them for who they really are, and you love that person so deeply. But it's like this weird position of, you see that potential and you see everything that they could be, but you also are having to deal with who they are right now. And, people can only meet us where they're at right now. And I think that that there's that potential here, but it's hard for you to navigate this knowing how good things could be if things did change. If this person, changed, if they, essentially were able to show up for this in the way that you deserve. So it's like there's almost this energy of like, it'll be worth it in the end, it'll be worth it in the end, like putting up with so much, soul being drained, but then just kind of finding yourself back in this energy of not being treated like you deserve, not experiencing the love that you deserve. And I feel like that's putting you in a really, like I said, like just difficult place because you're torn. The Sun. I feel like there were and have been so many times where things felt so good, and times where this was warm and safe and wonderful, and then there's the Eight of Cups. So I feel like if this connection were to be fully done, I'm not saying it is, I'm not saying that that's what you need to expect, but if it were, it's almost like it feels like you're letting go of that potential and how good things were. Maybe even feeling like it was the best you ever had. And so it almost puts you in this position of being trapped because you're like, I've never felt this way before. I've never experienced this kind of love before. I've never, had these kinds of feelings for another person. And there's so much potential that you see and that exists in this that it makes it so confusing for you when it comes to like, should I walk away? Should I let go? Should I try to move on? Should I hold on? And that's understandable, right? When something is so powerful and so magnetic and so there's so much depth there, like it makes it really hard to navigate it in a way that makes like logical sense because it's like, yeah, I know that things aren't what I deserve right now, but they really could be. And there are some times where they are, right? Like maybe in the beginning of the connection or throughout the connection, you got like glimpses of some really good energy here. And so now you're torn. And I think that this is a time to really try to find some clarity here for you because you deserve the love that you desire. And I do feel that it is really very possible for you, but I also feel that there's a cycle here. There's definitely a cycle here, but I feel like even just outside of this person, there's a cycle here that's blocking you from that love that you deserve. And I feel like the goal of this reading is really to get down to the bottom of that cycle so that you can break it and move forward toward what it is that you deserve, whether or not it is this person. And I think that that's what's hard is like, it's hard for you to picture it being anything better if this is as good as it's ever felt or as good as it's ever been. But let's look at this person's energy toward you. Know your worth with sparks. There's a lot of fear in this person's energy. Living in fear, almost. I don't really know what that means, but that's like what I hear and feel. Page of Cups in reverse right out of the gate. Okay. going to give this person a little bit of the benefit of the doubt here. I do feel there's a Judgment, High Priestess in reverse, Page of Cups in reverse, Eight of Pentacles, Knight of Wands in reverse, High Priestess in reverse, Judgment. It feels like, and this might make you go, what? It feels like in this connection, they really did put their best foot forward. And I don't mean that in the sense that like you should have just, you know, what they gave you should have just been enough, because that's not what I'm saying. But it does feel like they had good intentions for this from the beginning. Like I said, I feel like there is, Two of Cups, there is love here. And I feel like they wanted to do what they could to try to make this connection work, to try to make it happen. And I said this from the get-go. I said that I felt like there were some things below the surface that are blocking this person's ability to show up. And with the Knight of Wands in reverse, it feels like there's this lack of vulnerability here and of depth within themselves that causes them to do what they can to keep things surface level. So like you're wanting that deep connection. You're wanting, them to really put in the effort that you're desiring. And like they are putting in effort, but it kind of feels like a lot of it is in the wrong ways. It's like, maybe they buy you flowers when they mess up, right? They mess up, they feel bad, and they buy you flowers and they try to apologize. But you're like, I appreciate that, right? You appreciate the flowers, you appreciate the apology, but I'd also like for you to work on the things that you do to not mess up so much, or I'd like for you to not repeat these patterns and behaviors. Like that's what I mean. It's like they try in a lot of surface level ways, and I do feel like they're putting their best foot forward, but I feel like there's a lack of doing the real work here. And because of that, they're so closed off, and they're so in this energy of keeping you and other people at a distance. And I think that because of that, you feeling very shut out here, it starts to make you feel, not good enough, or like you're not worth it in the end, or whatever the case is, even though you feel like this person is worth it in the end. There's so much more to the story than just that. With this Five of Wands here, I feel like this person is kind of dealing with their own inner battles and inner struggles that I feel like they have a tendency to take out on this connection. I feel like they struggle with believing that they're worthy and deserving of love, like we kind of talked about in the beginning. But I also feel like they really desire what this connection holds. So that puts them in this position of being like, well, I want to make this work, but also, I hold these feelings of believing that I'm not worthy, lovable, and deserving. And those, things kind of take over sometimes. And that's a lack of healing. That's a need to kind of be willing to look within and see how their decisions reflect their belief that they're unworthy and undeserving and unlovable, instead of believing that they can have the things that they deserve and desire. And I think that, I said Page of Cups in reverse right out of the gate. That is an energy to me of like emotional immaturity and emotional unavailability and lacking that emotional awareness. It's an energy of not being connected to themselves. And when people are disconnected from themselves, when they're disconnected from their feelings, or, they're not honoring their emotions or their experience, they're not going to honor yours. They're going to do whatever they can to survive and to feel like they, whatever they're trying to do to protect themselves. And every single one of their decisions is going to come from, just an emotional place, not a logical place, not a place rooted in what they truly desire, but from a place rooted in the things that they haven't healed yet. So I feel like it's important for you to know that, the things that this person does, it has nothing to do with you, it has nothing to do with your worth, it has nothing to do with what you deserve. And I feel like you've spent a lot of time waiting on this person to change, waiting on them to step up and to start to show up in this connection in the way that you deserve, not show up, in the way that matches kind of their capacity. Because that's the hard thing too, is like everybody has a different capacity when it comes to being able to love and give and receive love, and to show up in healthy connections or in healthy ways. And it's going to 100% depend on how deeply they've met themselves. Because if somebody hasn't met themselves at the deepest level and understands their trauma and their triggers and how those things show up in their relationships, then they're not coming from a conscious place. They're coming from unconsciously repeating patterns and cycles and dynamics that they're used to. And I feel like this person has a tendency to do that. And I feel like it can be pretty unhealthy. And again, kind of going back to what I said, I feel like you kind of, it's almost like you see that, you recognize that, but you see who they are below all of that, and you're holding on to that person and you're wanting them to become everything that you know that they can be. But in the meantime, you're getting really hurt by the person that they show up as. And I think that that's where we have to look at like what's in our power and what's in our control and what we can do when it comes to breaking cycles. Because like obviously, yes, if this person, you know, healed, if they worked on themselves, if they, you know, actually, you know, started to take accountability, maybe even instead of just, you know, oh, I'm sorry, coming back, you know, making the same mistakes. Oh, I'm sorry, you know, coming back, making the same mistakes in just a different way. Or, you know, remain emotionally unavailable, like continue not to let you in. Like those things are going to be their responsibility to work on. And their, you know, the things that they've been through in their life that have given them, you know, these protective patterns and, you know, have caused them to act in this way. Those things are not your fault, nor is it your burden to bear. And I think that it's important for you to look at this connection more in a way of like asking yourself what it is that you need. I feel like you've been really caught up in this person and their needs and how they feel. And we do that when we love somebody. So it makes plenty of sense. But I also feel like, you know, there's a need to really look at how you feel and what you need and make sure that like you're being fair to yourself in this too. Because I do feel like this is something that is really that's really draining you and is really putting you in a place of hurt and has been for a long time. So with that being said, we're going to hop on over to the extended. You have breakups and makeups with grief and sadness. I'm going to dive deeper into this, looking at the deeper purpose and the best way for you to move forward in alignment with your higher self. Thank you so much, Capricorn, as always, for your support of my channel. I do obviously hope that this reading helped and resonated with you in a way that you were needing today. And as always, I wish you nothing but love and healing and all of the wonderful things that you deserve and desire on your journey moving forward. All right, bye, Capricorn.